When a police officer was shot dead in his California home nearly 5 years ago, investigators wondered if the murder was linked to his job. But the man's killer had a deeper personal connection. On this week's 48 Hours, correspondent Erin Moriarty investigates a toxic relationship that escalated to violence.
On February 6, 2015, in mid-afternoon, time stood still in Tulare County.
That was the day, says District Attorney Tim Ward, that police officer Daniel Green was ambushed by a killer who shot him 4 times in quick succession.
This was not anything other than a cold-blooded, calculated execution.
Daniel was 31 years old and an 11-year veteran of the Exeter Police Department in Central California. Almost immediately, sheriff's deputies were aware of a possible suspect, Green's ex-wife, Erica Sandoval, who had in the past seemed capable of violence. Matt Green is Daniel Green's identical twin brother.
She had cut up the couch, and she had cut up the bed springs and stabbed holes in the wall, taken a bottle of pancake syrup and just spread it all over the carpet. Just a ridiculous amount of vandalism.
Daniel and Erica had what everyone called a toxic relationship. DA Ward says Erica, who was eventually arrested and charged with her ex-husband's murder, killed Daniel 1 week after he posted this Instagram photo featuring his new 20-year-old girlfriend, Brenda Vella.
Is it possible that Daniel Green would still be alive if he had never posted that picture on social media?
That's an impossible question, but you wonder. It's such a tragedy that we'll never know.
But it does point to motive, and in the 3 days leading up to the murder, Erica bombarded Daniel with 167 phone calls. At trial, Erica admits she killed her ex-husband, but she says it was to protect their young son.
Of course I regret it. I regret it every day.
All right, Erin joining us now. So this is a case where the victim is a police officer.
And he's also a domestic violence
Had you
victim.
ever, he's a victim in a domestic violence
actually,
situation.
it's more common than what we realize.
Really?
Now, I should point out, this couple had a very toxic relationship. Yeah. The two of them tortured each other. But it does put a spotlight on something that we don't talk about that's far more common than what we realize, and that is when the male is a victim. And part of the reason is, especially when he's a cop like Daniel Green, they don't want to admit it. His friends all regret that they didn't take what he said seriously, because he kept saying, if I am found dead, look at her.
Oh my gosh.
But also the forms of abuse are very different. So, you know, he's not like a quote-unquote battered victim, but she would cut up his mattresses, his furniture. She'd put oil on his clothing. She, and I'm quoting her, snipped a few wires on his motorcycle before he got on and rode it and then ran through a red light. And so that's something that we don't. Yeah. And then what else? I mean, this case has been fascinating.
And I imagine there's a lot of psychological abuse happening too.
Well, yeah, and I have to say then he reacts, and so it escalates. Yeah. But what I also found, so we've been following this case for a while through the trial then, is that it's more difficult to prosecute this young woman. You know, she's 33 now. She's very attractive, no criminal history. So the jury and everybody else thinks, well, if she killed him, there had to be a reason. You can't, we might not think that if a male was the abuser. So it's a very, very different case for that reason.
Yeah. So she took the stand in her own defense, which is, that doesn't happen very frequently when we're talking about a murder trial.
I think I've seen it maybe twice, and you know how long I've been doing this. But in this case, she had to, because number one, she admitted she pulled the trigger. Two, and I hate to give this detail, and don't be mad at me for giving it, but it's hard for her to say self-defense, and she actually shot him while he was at a place most vulnerable. He was on the toilet. Sorry to say. Yes. So she really has to tell her story. I know. Right. She has to say what was going through her mind, and only she can do it. So she did. And for 4 days, she took the stand.
Wow. Which
really gives you an idea of the strength that this woman has. It really gives you, she's a very interesting human being.
Yeah, I bet. She's facing the death penalty?
She is facing the death penalty, and that's very unusual too, especially in California, which right now there's a moratorium on the death penalty. But in this case, I think the prosecution of Tulare County felt that, number one, it was a killer of a cop, and they're arguing that she was lying in wait. She actually broke into her ex-husband's house and was hiding in the closet and waited for him to go in the bathroom before she shot him. So it's a very unusual case,
yeah,
isn't
it sounds like it. Thank you very much, Erin.
Thanks.
So you can watch Erin's report, The Killing of Officer Green, on 48 Hours tomorrow night at 10, 9 Central on CBS.